From San Diego, California, this is a One Extraordinary Marriage show, where being busy is overdone, romancing is fun, and scheduling sex has taken the guesswork out of wondering when you're going to get some. I'm Tony DeLorenzo, your co-host, along with my beautiful wife, Elisa. From coast to coast and around the world, thank you for joining us. It's time to talk sex, love, and commitment. Give us a call on the Hug Hotline at 858-876-5663 or send an email to hugs@oneextraordinarymarriage.com. In today's show, we talk about what the last 399 shows have meant to you, the one family. This show is all about you. Hugs from near and far.
And as we start this show, I want you to think about this quote from Nelson Mandela. He said, "Remember to celebrate milestones as you prepare for the road ahead." And that's what today's show is all about. And this week's show is sponsored by Canvas People. You can check them out at canvaspeople.com. And it's so fitting that Canvas People is actually the sponsor this week, the sponsor of the hug, because this show is all about hugs. And canvaspeople.com has a very easy photo to canvas service that takes your favorite memories, which is what this show is all about, and turns them into beautiful artwork for you to enjoy every day. You know, instead of just letting that picture sit on your phone and sit, you can bring it to life and put it on your walls at home, in your office, or what we're personally a fan of, giving it as a gift to your loved one. You know, and we encourage you to snap pictures. So let's get those pictures off your phone. Let's get those gifts given, especially as we're preparing for the holiday season. And what Canvas People has done for the one family is so incredible. They've created this special deal just for all of you guys. Now, normally their 11 by 14 canvases are priced at $69.99, but this limited time offer, you're going to get one free 11 by 14 canvas. You're just going to pay the shipping. I mean, seriously, guys, you know, with them having served over 1 million customers, with their canvases made here in the U.S., I mean, like, what are you waiting for?
That's right.
Right? Take advantage of the special deal. Go to canvaspeople.com and enter promo code MARRIAGE to get your free one. So as Tony said at the start of the show, this week is all about the one family. Every 100th show, we do an entire...
100th show.
Every 100th show, we do an entire show that's all hugs.
It's all hugs.
It's all hugs. And when we started the One Extraordinary Marriage show in our garage, January of 2010, we had no idea that we would be behind these microphones almost 8 years later. And in all honesty, it's been an incredibly awesome, crazy ride.
It has been. I mean, I'm thinking back right now to those older shows, like those first ones, and you know, no idea about studio setup, microphone, and mixer stuff. We had that, but even thinking about acoustics and sound, it's crazy where we were and where we are now.
Yeah. And so we're just going to jump in because we had a number of hugs come in, and we want to make sure to be able to get through as many of them as we can. And the first one said, "Thank you both for what you do. My wife and I have been married for 3 years, and we're having a problem with communication and being real. Your shows have given us some of the tools we need to drop the societal facade and become closer than ever. We're both actively working to take our marriage from good to great, from great to extraordinary." And that actually ties. I remember there was on the 100th show, there was somebody that talked about, don't just be good.
Right.
Take your marriage and be extraordinary.
Yeah. And I would have to say on this one, like, and we're going to just add some little tidbits of what we've done and how we worked on our communication and where we are now, you know, because we want to be open and honest and real with you guys. And I will say again, and I've said this in some of the previous shows, the biggest thing for Elisa and I right now in this area of our marriage is our coffee breaks. It really is. It allows that communication to flow back and forth, you know. And if you haven't checked that thing out, go to oneextraordinarymarriage.com/coffee break, and you can check that out because it has been the key thing for us on a weekly basis.
Yeah.
You know.
So this next one says, during our almost 21 years of marriage, we have not been in a sexless marriage, but we've had a lot of conflict around sex for most of those years. Until this year, I started listening to One Extraordinary Marriage in early 2017 and began sending my wife episodes that I thought could help us. In March, we had our first coaching session with Elisa, and we began our intimacy lifestyle, which went awesome for a solid 4 months. Just recently, we had our second coaching session with Elisa, and we tweaked our intimacy lifestyle. We're calling it IL 2.0 to work better for both of us. So far, our new intimacy rhythm is working great. I can't thank Tony, Elisa, and the One family enough for being there for my marriage and so many others. I feel like I am being constantly equipped to try new things and romance my wife in new ways. During those times when I feel hopeless or at an impasse, the One family is there like a great cloud of witnesses described in Hebrews 12:1, cheering me and my wife on to have that breakthrough that's just around the corner, to keep running the marriage race with perseverance and with greater hope.
I love that.
I thought, and you're going to hear from a number of coaching clients today, but, here's a couple that took the intimacy lifestyle. And for those of you that maybe aren't familiar with what we're talking about, because you're like, Tony and Lisa, this is the first show I've listened to with you guys. Like, who are all these hugs and what is this talking about? What's this intimacy lifestyle? Episode 140 on scheduling sex is where we talked about this. And that's crazy to think that was, 260 shows ago. Over 5 years ago that we first put that out to you guys. And so many of you have come on board and said, you know what? Scheduling sex has actually made such a, like this couple made such a tremendous difference in our marriage, right? We're now making each other a priority.
I think that's been one of the biggest thing over the years that we've heard from you guys in the One family, I will say, is the ability to look at what we're talking about here on a week in, week out basis, no matter what form of intimacy we're talking about, be it, emotional intimacy, financial intimacy, spiritual intimacy, recreational, physical, or sexual. No matter what we're talking about week in and week out, the intimacy lifestyle is something that so many of you have weaved into your marriage and are making it happen. And we hear time and time again how doing that makes things just flow in your marriage on that day-to-day, week-to-week, month-to-month basis. And yeah, we're going to run into those walls where it's not working exactly right. Like this couple talked about, they're doing IL 2.0. By all means, go for it. Make it yours. Use us as the example, as the...
it's like a template.
Exactly.
We're all
Use
familiar
us
with
as
templates. Right.
And make it your own though.
And throughout the shows we've had, like the paramedic couple, right? Where they actually only see each other 10 days a month, and they figured out how to make the intimacy lifestyle, the 7 days of sex challenge. They figured out how to make it work. Right. So don't have excuses, guys, in your marriage. Have solutions, right? Create solutions.
Yeah. So here's our next hug. In a sea of people who are apathetic about their marriages and are okay settling for living with roommates, thank you for being the inspiration to continue to strive for more. Your gentle reminders through the podcast and coaching sessions help us keep our eyes on the prize, an extraordinary marriage. Our marriage is so blessed by your wisdom. I feel so fortunate that my children are going to witness what a connected, deep, and loving marriage looks like day in, day out, and will carry these examples into their own adult life. Thank you for changing families for generations to come. Love you guys.
Oh my goodness. Generations to come. It was so interesting preparing for this show. I would see the hugs come in and we do drop them into a template just so that we'll be able to read them. So we're not like jumping back and forth from email to email. And, I've just been dropping them in all week. And even today, as we were preparing to record this show, I found myself with tears in my eyes, and you guys can probably hear it in my voice right now. Because when we started One Extraordinary Marriage, and for those of you that don't know, the reason it's called One Extraordinary Marriage is because we wanted to impact one marriage. We get up every day and we get behind the mics or behind the computers or post to Facebook or Instagram or write a book or design a new program. We do all of that because there's one marriage out there that we know we're supposed to impact today, and we don't know whose it is. Right. And so when I read this message, when Tony reads this message and we hear it, and we hear about a couple who says, you know what, our kids are seeing something different. We didn't know 8 years ago when we started this, the impact that it was going to have on generations. We just knew that we were two people that had struggled in our own marriage, that had, kind of figured out a few things 8 years ago. We'd figured out, one or two, and we'd done something crazy like the 60 days of sex challenge. And yet we just started talking to all of you, and you engaged with us. And now we get to read about kids who are seeing marriage done differently. They're seeing a marriage where their parents are working out and working through conflict. And they're learning something that most of us that listen to the show didn't learn, and that's how to do marriage. And so it's why I get emotional when I see this, because I think, oh my gosh, what will happen if we have a generation of kids that actually witness their parents doing marriage and doing it well? How will that change our world?
And I want to just say kudos to you guys. Just recently, I know somebody on Instagram had tagged us. Somebody had posted a photo and was discussing how they're just having a tough time right now in their marriage. Like, if I can remember, sort of the top part was like, marriage is hard. And this woman went to share, just some of the stuff that possibly that she's dealing with now or has dealt with. I couldn't tell you for sure. And yet one of you in the one family didn't just sit back and go, oh, well, it's okay. We all deal with it. No, you went out there and you said, you know what? This is what me and my husband do on a weekly basis. This is what we're doing. And make sure you come over here and you listen and you follow One Extraordinary Marriage. So I want to thank each and every one of you who've done that, because, like Elisa said, we came behind these mics to change one marriage, and we didn't know who it was. We're just beyond blessed to have folks like you who also have that same mission to change a marriage, to change someone's life, to impact somebody for generations to come. So we love you guys for that.
Mm-hmm. This next one says, we want to start off by saying that we are a different kind of listener. My wife and I are a Muslim Somali couple who were both born outside the United States and grew up far removed from the traditional American upbringing. But although we come from a different cultural lens, we want you to know that we connect with you guys and have found peace and knowledge through your words and your guidance. My wife and I got engaged in April of 2016 and found your podcast in May of that year. And this is in all caps. Best find ever. It's like we have our own personal virtual counselors that know exactly what is going on in our relationship. Prior to us getting married, we got married in December of 2016, by the way.
Congratulations.
Listening to your podcast has really exposed us to the secret life of a marriage and what that looks like. You opened our eyes to the nitty-gritty that's not really shown in the movies or talked about. You taught us how to use the proper tools to tackle things together and be able to resolve anything in a positive and meaningful way that helps us grow. So we thank you guys from the bottom of our hearts. We are so happy to be part of the One family.
And we are blessed and honored to have you part of the One family. I mean, this is a hug that I could sit on for a long time. And the reason being, in the one that I love, the line I love the most, and it's one of the virtues that I think Elisa and I landed on real early on the show. And I want to say, I think it was episode 4 when we got called out. I remember being sick as a dog with the flu. And I was about to die, guys. And for all my husbands out there, you understand this, man. You got the flu. You're dying, right? Elisa comes running into our bedroom. This is in the old house. And Elisa comes in. She's like, you won't believe it. Somebody wrote in and da-da-da-da-da. Just, she was all excited in a frustrated way.
It was the first challenging email that we've gotten
and you guys
for the One family.
Go listen to episode 4. You'll figure it out. But I always knew from that point forward, we were going to be open, honest, and transparent with you guys. And so in this one, it says, listening to your podcast has really exposed to us the secret life of a marriage and what that looks like. From that show, episode 4 to today and moving forward, we're always going to be open, honest, and transparent with you guys, because that, I believe, is what has been missing in our society when it comes to marriage. Because we've talked about it before. The movies portray it, making it look so beautiful. Hey, you want to have sex with your spouse? Man, she is wearing the most sexiest thing ever. She is just coming in. She is giving you the eyes like you would not believe. Drop dead gorgeous. Everything's perfect. The candles, the bed. There's no kids. There's nothing going on. You make love. You have the most amazing session. And then it's done. And yet we all know, if you've been listening to this show for any length of time, that's not where it ends. That you don't get the cut there and then move on with your life. No, life continues to happen. So I love this. I love you guys. We love you guys, and so thankful. Yeah, you may not be the typical, and I put that in quotes, listener, but you are part of the one family, and we are honored and blessed to have you.
Mm-hmm. And I love just the scope of the one family, such an international, global. It's a global family that you're part of, because like they said, Somalia, some of you may actually have to get out a map and see where Somalia is. I would encourage you to do so because you've got one family members there. Going on to this next one, it says, I've been listening to your podcast for a while now. I love the show, and I tried to get my husband to listen. He's listened to a few episodes, but is super busy and loves his music when he's in the car. Totally get it. But recently, we've been trying to conceive, and due to that, we completed the 7 Days of Sex Challenge.
Hey.
It's amazing how the 7 days, and we do know, just as a side note, that there are a few babies that were conceived through the One Extraordinary Marriage 7 Days of Sex Challenge. I'm just saying, you know what, when you decide to have sex for 7 days and you do it right around, ovulation, your chances are good. I'm just going to put that out there, but we take no responsibility for any of those babies. But she goes on to say, we weren't thinking about it that way. But at the end of the week, my husband commented how nice it was to have sex regularly. The 7 Days of Sex Challenge worked wonders. We feel so connected. Thank you.
And I want to say this. If you're in a place in your marriage right now and you're like, man, that sounds good. I would challenge you. We would challenge you to do a 7 Days of Sex Challenge. You can check out our book, 7 Days of Sex Challenge, at 7daysofsex.com. Everything I'm talking about here, when we're dropping some URLs and some links, they're going to be here in the show notes for you guys. But I will tell you that this is one of those things that we have heard from the one family time and time again, that it's just rocked their world. They think, oh, what's 7 days going to be like? Is it really going to be that big of a challenge? Is it really going to make that big of a difference? And you would be surprised the emails and the conversations we have with folks, what can happen in 7 days.
Mm-hmm. So this next one says, I'm writing in because I wanted to let you know how much your show has touched my life and healed my wounded marriage. My husband and I have been together for 9 years and married for 7. We have 3 beautiful little girls together, and for a long time we were extremely happy until our marriage hit a speed bump. Almost every marriage. In fact, I would even be so bold as to say every marriage will hit at least one speed bump. She goes on to say, we began growing apart and arguing more frequently. We were going through many changes in life. He had been laid off and had to find other work, which resulted in working lots of hours and him being grouchy due to lack of sleep. Also, we had a house fire and lost everything, which was a very stressful time to go through with 3 little ones and trying to find a new balance. On top of that, my parents recently went through a divorce, and that has been very hard on me. There was one point in time that I honestly thought this was the end for us. Our marriage was going to end in divorce, and I knew that neither of us wanted that, but that was what it was coming to. In the midst of all this craziness, my husband found your podcast and started listening and became addicted. We've heard that once or twice. We know there are a few of you that have binge listened many, many episodes. He told me about it and I brushed it off at first. We've heard that too. I wasn't ready to start something new. And also I'd never listened to a podcast before. So I thought, well, what good is that going to do? He kept telling me about it and how much it had helped him realize more and more things about marriage and commitment. So finally I caved in and I started listening, and I am now addicted. Your words of wisdom and encouragement have helped our marriage in ways that I can't even explain. Putting these different techniques into place in our marriage has been wonderful for us. We are now more understanding of each other's needs, and I am better at communication than I've ever been. It's all thanks to the 2 of you and your show. We are nowhere near perfect in our marriage, but it is definitely healing, and we are well on our road to an extraordinary marriage again. Thank you both so much for your encouragement and support. We love you guys.
This is, those bumps in the road. You're going to hit them. You're going to hit them. And heck, just in the last 3 months of listening to this show, if you've heard us speak for a couple of weeks at a time, especially in that July, August time frame and into September,
I was going to say into September,
that we were hitting those things. And you know what? It's definitely, even for us, there's a place of healing. There's a place of where we can lose connection with each other, even with what we do on a day-to-day basis. But knowing that when we come behind these mics, we're talking to each other, and we're helping each other move forward on this journey. Here's our next hug.
Just wanted to say that I love listening to your podcasts. I'm new to the One Extraordinary Marriage family. My husband and I have recently completed the 7 days of sex challenge, and I want to report that it has been life-changing. I think we've heard that once or twice. It's amazing. If you guys have not done the 7 days of sex challenge, no joke, it might be something you want to consider here as we round out the end of the year. She said, as I sit here and write this, I can't help but get emotional because I've seen what this challenge can do, not just physically, but emotionally. My husband and I have been together for a little over 11 years, dating and married. We met young and we were in the flesh, so we could not get enough of each other. I felt that it would continue once we were married because we would have more freedom to express ourselves. But that was not the case. I found myself withdrawing more and more from my husband when it came time to be intimate, especially after the birth of our little boy, who is 3 years old now. I oftentimes would make up excuses to fend him off, and I know that I would flat out say no to him and reject his advances. This past week has been awesome. We have learned so much about each other, what we like in the bedroom, and most importantly, now we are able to talk about anything and everything. I've seen a huge change in my husband and myself. We are more patient and loving towards each other. I feel like our old selves again. I failed to mention that we both work together at the same place, and we make more of an effort to sneak away from our offices to see each other, and just seeing him makes my heart race. I feel those butterflies all over. I wanted to say thank you from the bottom of my heart, and I pray that God continues to use you and your show as a beacon of hope for marriages like mine.
Love it.
Absolutely.
That's so great.
Yeah, and we've got a few more here, guys. I want to make sure that you know that we're, still rolling ahead with these, but I want to remind you, as we're talking about all these memories, I want to remind you to take advantage of that incredible offer from canvaspeople.com to get that free 11 by 14 canvas. You're just going to pay shipping and handling, but as I listen to all these stories, I think about all these couples, and I think about, kind of like what their before and afters would look like, right? If we were pictures, before and after we started working on our marriage. And so get to canvaspeople.com, use promo code marriage, and then get that free 11 by 14. Let's get a whole bunch of after pictures up on the wall. Let's get a whole bunch of after pictures of growth and change from the One Extraordinary Marriage. So jump on this offer. Don't miss out. So this next one says, happy 400th. You guys rock. I found One Extraordinary Marriage at show 333. That's redefining the intimacy lifestyle in July of 2016. Our marriage was still recovering from a very difficult stage, which included a short separation. At the time, the idea of scheduling sex seemed crazy. We were struggling with just being able to talk to each other. Episode 333 led to a binge of past episodes and tuning in weekly going forward. In the first few months of finding One, I got intentional, putting many ideas into action and utilizing a number of One resources. Over the year, our marriage thrived on a diet of new and fun ways that made intimacy more reachable. And I personally thrived on the encouragement and hope Tony and Lisa provided. Recently, intimacy has been more challenging. Connection feels fleeting at times. We're back in some negative cycles, and I've been discouraged. Honestly, I believe we've retreated from the depth we discovered, and somehow we're scared of what we know deeper intimacy demands of us. Like you guys say all the time, you're going to go through seasons and transitions. And what a relief to have this confirmed and prayed over. Mm-hmm. Before One became part of our marriage mastermind, I would have been in despair during this kind of lull. But not now. I have the One community and the tools we need to keep the ship moving forward. I'm positive our intimacy will deepen as we step out of our comfort zones and towards each other again and again. Being part of the One family gives me hope, ideas, and community every day. I can't wait to see what the next 100 episodes will bring. I'll be with you all the way. Love you guys.
Yeah, we can't imagine what the next 100 shows will bring. That's another 2 years of our lives. So there's going to be a lot of transition as we go through these next 2 years. That's for dang sure, and we're excited. We're excited. As I thought about that, we're here on the 400th show, and I'm about to read the next hug here, but in 400 episodes, guys, we have only put one show up that was one show that we did prior, and we re-showed it. And the only reason we did that was because it was last year, our 20th anniversary, and we were in Peru, which is absolutely crazy to think about. So when this listener says the next 100 shows, we're most likely going to be behind these mics every week for the next 100 shows, because it is what we are about and what we do. So Absolutely. Here's the next one. This one came in from Instagram. Hi, Tony and Elisa. I'm engaged to the sweetest man that I've ever met, and we are greatly anticipating our upcoming marriage. Good for you guys. I have an hour-long drive to my student teaching placement. I graduate college in May, and your all's podcast has been such an educational enlightening experience every morning. Thank you all for speaking candidly about something that we don't know much about, but will soon be a huge part of our lives together. We can't wait to keep listening and learning. And to all of our singles, to all of those folks who are engaged, we are truly, truly thankful that you come here and listen. It was interesting when we started learning that we did have singles and engaged folks learning from the One Extraordinary Marriage show. We didn't understand it at first. And the big thing that we have learned over time is that you're here listening because you want to hear the truth about what's coming up in marriage.
Mm-hmm. So this next one, we just have a couple more. Says, I am sending this from the other side of the world, all the way from Saudi Arabia. I just want to thank you for the positive yet realistic ideas you're sharing with us. I came across your show this summer when my marriage was becoming too overwhelming for me. My husband and I were very close in the early years of our marriage, but after 12 years and 3 kids, we started to drift apart, and we had almost no time for each other. Thanks to you, things are not back to what they were 12 years ago. They are much better, and our connection is much deeper. Thank you for sharing your life and experience with us. I thought you should know that your effect has reached people miles and miles away from you guys. Keep it up. God bless.
That's great. I love that.
Definitely. Now, here's someone that jumped on board with the 60 Days of Sex Challenge and said, we want to check back with you now that our 60 Days of Sex Challenge is over. We're happy to report there were no illness, no trips, no skipping out on any days. We completed every day. It was not gourmet every night. Now, those of you, if you're wondering where gourmet comes from, check out the coffee break that Tony mentioned.
And let me just say this here, 60 days. Like they did
2 months.
60 days. Elisa and I did 40 out of 60 days. These guys deserve a massive clap from all of us here at the One Family.
Absolutely. And I happen to know they have a couple of kids who are keeping them busy. So here's what she goes on to say. We learned so much during the challenge, and it was so very effective. Even though it was difficult to accomplish during the fall busy season for my work, the timing was just what we needed. Here are our highlights. I could face every day without feeling the condemnation and guilt of not being a, quote, good wife. I was able to face my own emotions and express them about the issues I was experiencing, both related to sexual intimacy and not related to that. The realization by my husband that sex every day, 365 days a year, was not attainable or even desirable. Can I get an amen? The debunking of the myth that scheduled sex cannot be exciting. Now here's a little insight. She said, I did lose sleep, time with kids, and time to exercise, but I gained a steady emotional bond with my husband, a confidence in the health of our relationship, a newfound appreciation of him, an organized home with all honey-do items crossed off the list, most within 24 to 48 hours, financial intimacy, which has us on track to meet some big goals in 2018, the willingness of my husband to join a small group at church and therefore spiritual growth, and the encouragement and hope to move on in my career in spite of not getting a promotion this year. Hello, 60 days. What are you waiting for?
Start with 7. You can just keep on rolling.
Absolutely.
Get that one going.
Now, this is our final hug, and there's a reason this one is at the end. And here I am getting emotional again. This gentleman has written in for every 100th show. So 100, 200, 300, and 400. We've read something from him. And he starts off, bet you were wondering if I was going to write, weren't you? Yes, it's your favorite curmudgeon back for another update. So here goes. I'm now 68 and wife is 66. So for all of you, when he first wrote in, let's do the math. He was 62 and she was 60. Yes, we still sleep together every night, but unfortunately due to the progression of the arthritis, there are fewer nights that I'm able to go upstairs to our bedroom. But we still enjoy our times together. We go on in our jog-trot life, just a retired couple, but we find that we are that couple that people point to, having been married now for 46 years.
Wow.
Truth be told, we kind of enjoy the notoriety, although we're both bemused by it. This time around, I want to piggyback on the podcast that you did on family stories. I believe it was about the time that Tony's father passed. I remember how the two of you urged your listeners to make sure that they gathered their family stories and histories. Kind of funny how these anniversary shows are like our family stories and histories. These are your family stories as you're part of the one family. He said, please let me reemphasize the need to do this. There's an old African proverb that says when an old person dies, a library burns down. And what this husband doesn't know is that that is actually the quote that Tony's mom chose to be on the memorial cards, to be on the gravestone. That's the quote that is symbolic of Tony's dad. Your exhortation for your listeners to start gathering their stories was well timed, as I had just finished doing that very thing. My mom is now 89 and her memory is going. For years, I asked her to sit down with a cassette recorder and record her memories, but she kept insisting she couldn't talk to a machine. The Amish have a saying, too soon old, too late smart. It took me several years for that to sink in and for me to think of another way to collect her stories. One day I realized that Mom and I talk a lot on the phone and that Mom's favorite thing to do was tell her stories. So when Mom would talk, I put my phone on speaker in order to free up my hands, fired up my laptop, and started typing notes on all her memories and anecdotes. After 2 years of phone conversations and note-taking, I had amassed a large number of stories, just like all of you on this anniversary show. Long story short, I was able to organize her memories of her life and our family and put them into a PDF format along with over 100 years of photos. My oldest son works in a print shop, and he was able to take those PDFs and lay them out for the book. Attached is a photo for your hug wall, which for those of you that don't know, over the years we have had our hug wall, right, of couples that you've sent them in, and we've put your pictures up, and we have those as memories of how special and how large the one family is. And he goes on to say, needless to say, I consider this one of the best things I've done in my life. So as a service announcement to your listeners, please tell them to actively hunt down and collect their stories to be able to pass them on to their own children. Well, that's all for now. Keep encouraging your listeners and know that you do make a difference in their lives.
Thank you. Thank you all for blessing us today, blessing others in the one family. Your words have life and they speak life into others. You don't know who may be touched when they put this in their ears, this week, next year. So we thank each and every one of you for this 400th show, for, it's just truly a blessing to know that we have been around for this long, but it wasn't only us. I think that's the big thing, you guys. It's not us. We just get the opportunity and are very fortunate to speak into these microphones each and every week. But these stories tell a much bigger story of why One Extraordinary Marriage exists and why we will continue to come here every week to speak truth and be honest and open and transparent with you guys about marriage, because our goal is that one marriage. And yet there are many marriages that need to be impacted. We love you guys. Have a fantastic week. Here's what I'm going to say to you this week. Here's your to-do this week. If you didn't write in a hug, you know what? Write a hug to your spouse. Tell them how they have impacted your life since you've been married. Do that this week. And it doesn't have to be long. It doesn't have to be eloquent. It could just be something that you just write down on a sticky note for all that we care. But let them know that this week. We love you guys. Have a fantastic week, and we'll catch you next week. Love you guys.